Whew! Welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I am Nate, and today's episode is a pre-fight show for UFC 161, Rashad Evans versus Dan Henderson. It's going to be a great light heavyweight main event fight. Before we get to the pre-fight rundown of the main card of UFC 161, just want to talk about a couple things. First of all, I'm wearing this Death Clutch shirt because Pat Barry's fighting on the main card, and he was a Death Clutch guy for a while before Death Clutch folded. He was actually probably one of the last guys in Death Clutch. So good luck, Pat Barry. Yeah, this is a t-shirt that kind of looks like the shirt that Brock wore to UFC 100 before he, well, when he manhandled Frank Mir in the rematch. And also, my good buddy stipe miocic is fighting Roy Nelson on the main card. And yeah, I hung out with him for a little bit in Vegas. Really nice guy. I'm also a Roy Nelson fan though, so good luck to both you guys. Okay, now let's get to the pre-fight rundown of UFC 161 main card. In the main event, we got a light heavyweight fight with Rashad Evans and Dan Henderson. Now, this is not a 5-rounder from my understanding. It's a 3-rounder because this was bumped up from co-main event to main event on short notice. Originally, the main event was going to be Henan Barral versus Eddie Wineland. So, they both agreed they'll make it a 3-rounder. Rashad Evans, Dan Henderson are both great wrestlers. Dan Henderson probably has overall the better wrestling credentials, but he doesn't always use his wrestling. Rashad Evans loves to use his wrestling. This fight could go either way. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Rashad Evans wins, probably by decision. Lands more punches, maybe even gets a takedown or two in the later rounds. Yeah, I think Rashad's going to avoid the right hand, heavy right hand of Dan Henderson. So I like them both. I'm happy either way, whoever wins this fight. I would say I'm probably a slightly bigger Rashad Evans fan. And yeah, Rashad Evans, he understands his last match against Little Nog was not him. He wasn't bringing his A game that day. Dan Henderson, his fight against Machida in his last fight could have gone either way. That was a controversial split decision. I was there in attendance for that fight. So yeah, I'm picking probably Rashad Evans lands more punches, outpoints Dan Henderson, and wins by unanimous decision, and narrowly avoids that right hand of Dan Henderson. Kind of like maybe shades of a Rampage Rashad fight where Rashad narrowly avoided getting knocked out by Rampage, or also the Thiago Silva Rashad fight where Rashad narrowly avoids heavy hands of Thiago Silva. So there you have it. There's my call for the main event. Then, yeah, in the co-main event, we got my buddy Stipe Miocic fighting Roy Nelson. I think this is a bad matchup. I think it's too much too soon for Stipe. I love Stipe, but I just feel like give him an easier opponent. He could win that, build him up. Because if he loses this, it'll be 2 losses now, back to back. That's always never a good thing for any fighter, especially in the UFC, especially with all the cuts they've had. And this is a pretty good matchup for Roy Nelson because he has heavy hands, great jiu-jitsu. Roy Nelson's a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's done jiu-jitsu for years and years and years. And he has heavy hands and he has a strong chin. So Stipe is a great wrestler and he studied boxing and has done boxing for a long time now. Stipe, I could imagine landing a lot of punches on Roy and just not knocking out Roy, even though Stipe has that heavy hand knockout power. It's going to be hard to knock out Roy Nelson. Then Stipe, if he tries using his wrestling, and gets a takedown, he has to worry about the submission game of Roy Nelson off his back. So it's going to be a tough win for Stipe, a long night. And I would say if Stipe is going to win, it's going to be by knockout, but that's going to be really tough. And yeah, I got Roy Nelson winning in the first or second round by knockout. Maybe the overhand right, but maybe he'll do something to throw Stipe off guard for a little bit and then throw the overhand, because if he just goes in for the overhand, Stipe, having good boxing training, might be able to see it a mile away and dodge it for a few shots. Then after that, Roy Nelson will do something, maybe fake a takedown, and then go for the overhand right. Something in that nature. So yeah, I got Roy Nelson, and that's a heavyweight fight, co-main event. I got Roy Nelson winning by first or second round knockout. Then, also on the main card, we got light heavyweight matchup, Ryan Jimmo and Igor Pokrajac. I got Ryan Jimmo winning this by probably decision. Well, actually, you know what? Knockout. Yeah, first or second round knockout for Ryan Jimmo. Igor Pokrajac, he's a great fighter, veteran. He can be knocked out though. And Igor is a great fighter. He's had a lot of experience. He's been in the UFC plenty of times. Ryan Jimmo though is 17-2, has knockout power. And not only that, he went the distance with James Sahuna and yeah, had a really, really good fight against James Sahuna. I mean, just would not quit. And if he gave James Sahuna a run for his money, then I could picture him taking out Igor pretty easily. Then, also on the main card, so yeah, Ryan Jimmo by first or second round knockout. Then also on the main card, we have a women's bantamweight bout with Alexis Davis and Rosi Sexton. Alexis Davis has fought the tougher competition. Rosi Sexton has fought probably easier competition. Alexis Davis 13-5, Rosi Sexton's 13-2. So it's like this. Alexis Davis has fought the tougher competition and she has more losses, but she's fought the tougher competition. Rosi Sexton's fought the easier competition and steamrolled it. So I got this as a fairly good matchup, a fairly more even than people give it credit for matchup. They both have great jiu-jitsu. They both have black belts. Well, Rosi Sexton has a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Alexis Davis has a black belt. The thing about brown belts, they're really good at submission defense, if anything. So I could picture Alexis Davis maybe winning by knockout here. Yeah, I got to go with Alexis Davis. Knockout in the first or second round, or possibly decision, going for submissions left and right, and getting top position, getting mount, side control, good half guard, full guard. Just really going for Alexis Davis. I got winning by either decision, through points on takedowns and submission attempts, or by knockout in the first or second round. But don't count out Rosi Sexton. I mean, I would say this is like a 51% chance Alexis Davis wins sort of thing. So it's pretty more even than you can imagine. And I know a lot of people haven't heard of Rosi Sexton. She's fought in Invicta, which is one of the premier leagues for women's MMA. So that's going to be a fight. I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit. I love the women fighters. Then to kick off the main card, we have a heavyweight bout with Pat Barry and Shawn Jordan. And yeah, Pat Barry, former Death Clutch guy, wanted to actually carry the torch when Brock left the gym. He wanted to take over Death Clutch. And it just didn't happen for whatever reason. I'm a Pat Barry fan, and you know, Shawn Jordan, he's a fellow Texan, but I'm sick of hearing his college football background like it matters in MMA. I mean, it's apples and oranges. Come on now. Pat Barry is a fighter. He has heavy hands, knockout power, great kickboxing. I can picture Pat Barry winning by knockout in the first or second round. He last fought Shane Del Rosario, knocked him out, and Shane Del Rosario probably has way better stand-up than Shawn Jordan. Shawn Jordan last fought Mike Russo. He won by second round TKO. I remember watching that fight, and Mike Russo was also had affiliation with Death Clutch, and I was really bummed out about that fight. So, yeah, I got Pat Barry winning this fairly easy. It won't be the biggest win in Pat Barry's career, but it won't be it probably won't put him on the map like the Anthony Hardong fight back at UFC 104, but it'll put Pat Barry back in a better spot for sure. So that wraps up the main card of UFC 161 pre-fight show at Nate's MMA Corner. And stay tuned in the coming days, probably about Sunday, Monday-ish, the post-fight show for UFC 161 Nate's MMA Corner will be up. And there you have it. Until next time, see ya.